Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is said that God mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit, that God recreates the universe every day. And we know Shabbat is to be zecher letziat Mitzrayim, a reminder of the exodus from Egypt, as well as zecher l'ma'aseh v'reishit, reminder of creation itself. Every day is an opportunity to start afresh. Every day is an opportunity to seek freedom. And on this Shabbat, as we remind ourselves of those important values after a challenging week and an even more challenging day, let's embrace the possibilities of creating anew and seeking freedom again. As we do so, I'm thrilled to be sharing the bima with Cantor Elisa Waltzman, along with Maestro Paul. And we have a real treat tonight. We have members of our Sisters of the Sea choir who've been practicing for how long?
Off and on since COVID began, really.
Years.
That's how it started.
Years. They were supposed to sing not that long ago, but there was a little COVID outbreak that derailed their last performance. So we have them back by popular demand. That's their demand. It was very popular among them. We also will be celebrating milestones. We have a Greenfield milestone, and we have a Miller-Kutzak milestone. And so we are thrilled to be celebrating all of this in the context of welcoming Shabbat. So I think it's time to invite our Sisters of the Sea to come forward.
Please come forward with your music.
Because we are going to begin our service with the blessing over the candles. And as they're coming up or coming down here, I want to also welcome not just those who are here in person, but those gathering near and far, online, via Zoom, and the various streaming platforms. It is great to have you wherever you are. Always waiting for Sorrel.
Always waiting. It's like waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot.
Let's take a few deep breaths. I feel like this Shabbat takes a little more de-stressing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And let's continue to welcome Shabbat this time as our beloved with the words of the mystics, Lecha Dodi, page 138. We'll be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and then rising for the 9th and final verse.
Shabbat
Please be seated. Tov Lehodot is part of Psalm 92. It's on page 140, and it is the only one of the Psalms that specifically tells us it's for this day of Shabbat. Page 140. And on page 146, we rise for the call to prayer. And let's remain standing as on page 152, we join together in the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu.
page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אלוהיכם אמת.
Please be seated. At the top of page 157, a reading that may speak to us especially on this Shabbat. Together, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And the song our ancestors sang on the shores of Freedom's Sea, page 158.
כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
גאל ישראל.
Amen. Page 160.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך, והגן מעלינו והסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב ורעב ויגון. אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Amen. Page 162, V'shamru. Pray as if everything depended on God, but act as if everything depended on you. Page 164, we rise for the tefillah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Koneh Hakol ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. I invite you to continue with the prayer on the page or the prayer of the heart until we join back together at the conclusion of the tefillah.
And the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God. Friends, on this Shabbat, as always, we turn our thoughts and prayers to those in need of healing. Page 382 is our prayer for healing, a reminder that we are thinking of those recovering from surgery, awaiting diagnoses, undergoing treatments. Some are here with us in person, others online. Some are in hospital. Folks struggling with mental illness, with addiction, and struggles of infertility. We think of them all. Page 382. רפאנו אדוני ונרפא, הושיענו ונבשע, אל קרוב לכל קורב, אך קרוב ליראיו אישו. אל נא רפאנה,
Now I'd like to welcome a young couple who are here for a celebration, Dr. Rob and Audrey Greenfield. We're going to begin with you youngsters. And as you stand here this day, I want you to look into each other's eyes. And I'm sure that when you see each other, you see the 15 and 16-year-olds that you were when you first met at a frat house, is my understanding.
That's correct.
And you remember all the little and big things that have happened throughout your lifetime together since that tender age, including the fact that you living on the other side of town in the old country, New York,
On the other side of the track.
on the other side of the tracks, it required the future Dr. Rob to learn karate so that he could be safe and keep you safe. You were married just a few years ago on June 23 at Congregation Beth Shalom in Lynbrook, Long Island, and very quickly thereafter, you moved to a very Jewish area where they specialize in fried chicken, named Kentucky. 2 Jewish kids wondering where you could find a bagel.
That's true. Blender's bagel is what I found.
In 1978, you came here and have made an indelible mark on Temple Bat Yahm. You've both been incredibly involved, especially Rob being president and chair of various committees, including adult education, which you're doing for the umpteenth time. You've been up to Portland and back, and you had a couple of pretty outstanding kids. I don't know if they're online, but maybe they are streaming to us. Adam and Rory, one in New York doing amazing things, one in Portland doing amazing things. And so on this occasion of 3 times high wedding anniversary, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, O God, eternal source of blessing, we turn to you in gratitude for the strength and devotion that have preserved and sustained Rob and Audrey and permitted them to reach this milestone of 54 years of marriage. Oh God, you look back upon the years that have passed since they first pledged themselves to one another. Many and varied have been their experiences since that day. Many have been the mingled occasions of victory and defeat, fulfillment and disappointment. You recall the joys that graced their days, and you remember the challenging times also. In joys and trials alike, O God, you've been with them, so may you continue to be with them, guiding and sustaining them in the years ahead. Rob and Audrey, may God bless you with health, with contentment, and always in the loving embrace of family and friends and this your temple community, near and far, for many years to come. And together we say, Amen. And now the first of 2 chances tonight for us all to join together, thanking God for reaching this joyful moment. You may now kiss the bride. Mazel tov, Simen tov, Simen tov, Mazel tov, Mazel tov, Simen tov, And now I'd like to invite two very mature individuals to come forward, Jacob Miller and Esther Kutzak. Come on down. And we're going to turn around so that your family members can see your smiling faces. Why don't you stand over here? Because you got a whole crowd up there, and probably some online as well. So we're going from 54 years of marital bliss to 2 more sleeps, and then you get married. Yes. Wow. Looking around the congregation, just by a show of hands, raise your hand if you remember this one when he was yay high. Wow. A few people were actually at your bris, including some of the folks crying over there. Esty, your folks beaming. That's beaming for them, I take it. They're so happy as they anticipate their beautiful daughter joining such a wonderful man, and finally, after all these years together, becoming husband and wife. And Jacob, your sisters and your mom are really going to need some Kleenex this weekend.
That's true.
They've watched you grow up from when you were shorter than them to when you're towering over them. They see so much of Abba in you, and so much of the mensch you are is caught up in your dad, who would so much love to have been here. And so on this weekend of celebration and possibilities, it's my privilege to pronounce words of blessing on you. Mishaberach Avoteinu v'Imoteinu. Ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless this Chatan, Jacob Miller, and this Kala, Esther Kutzak, known in the family as Esti Shvesti, because she's one of the Shvestis, one of the sisters, who will be joined under the chuppah in just 2 sleeps. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu help them to build a Bayit B'Yisrael, a Jewish home based on love and harmony, peace and companionship. May they be blessed in good time with healthy children and life. That was the moms. I get a little something for putting that in. And lives imbued with happiness, love for Torah, and ma'asim tovim, good deeds. May God bring blessing and success to all your worthy endeavors. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
And again, thanking God for reaching this joyful moment. To kiss the bride just yet. Sim, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, yelanu, mazel tov, mazel tov,
Mazel tov.
And folks, with such joy and simcha, we now do what we Jews do best, have a l'chaim. Let's rise, and it's time to open up the wine or grape juice that you received on your way in, or grab one now from Steve. Thank you, Cantor. As we sanctify this day with wine or grape juice and the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu. זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים.
לחיים. Please be seated. This week's Parsha, we recount a story that we might be able to empathize with. In Parshat Shlach Lecha, our ancestors are recently freed from Egypt, from centuries of slavery and oppression. They've overcome the Egyptian forces that pursued them by miraculously being able to cross the sea on dry land. They've received the Torah in a momentous revelation, a guidebook for living, for values, whose cornerstones are values like chesed, loving kindness, tzedek, justice, mishpat, law. And they're on the cusp of entering a land flowing with milk and honey, a land promised to their ancestors and to them, a place of hope and of possibility. Yet when 12 individuals are elected to represent the people and scout out the land, 10 of them come back with the wrong answer. It's impossible. Only 2, Caleb and Joshua, say that it can be done. As a result of this majority opinion of the 10 scouts against the 2, all the people of Israel are condemned to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until a whole generation caught up in the past has gone, and a new generation is able to transcend the old ways and navigate towards the new, under the leadership of those two who could see it back then, Joshua and Caleb. I think we can empathize with this episode in the Torah, which we are meeting for the second time, as we imagine the disappointment they must have felt, the sense of injustice, the outrage, the pain. They thought the future was just over the horizon, within their grasp. Yet, not enough people spoke out. Their silence condemned them. Today, most of us woke up to news that we had received a foreshadowing of under surprising circumstances from several weeks ago. Yet we had hoped, for many of us, against hope, that it would not be so. After 50 years of a freedom, that freedom has been removed for around 50% of the population, or 100% of the population for whom it is relevant in a concrete way. Now, I'm conscious that I am delving into matters that aren't so Shabbistic. Yet, Shabbat is a time to sit back and reflect on the big picture and those values that we heard at Sinai of justice, of chesed, of law. I also know that while I went to rabbinical school and medical school, and those things give me some level of expertise in these matters, I haven't yet gone to law school, although I have threatened occasionally. I also am not one of those human beings who has ever had the physical ability to carry a growing human inside myself. And so my ability and the appropriateness of my commenting on this also has its limitations. But with all of that said, I think it is important as a rabbi who went to medical school to point out that whatever the legal merits and justifications, whether they have merit or not, the effect for many who are not fortunate to live in states like California, where local regulations make this ruling essentially irrelevant, for those folks, and secondarily for us, the effect of this ruling is to force us to act against our religious convictions. In addition to all the other things we know can happen as a result of this: pain, death, illness, hardship, destroyed lives. Despite all of those things that apparently reflect a pro-life perspective, yet are anything but, those things go against our religious convictions and therefore infringe on our practice of Judaism, because Judaism says that a life in the womb is a potential life, not to be equated with someone who is walking around and breathing already out of the womb. And it is very clear in Jewish law, and this is regardless of which part of the Jewish spectrum you're in, that there are circumstances not only where it is appropriate to save the life of the mother at the expense of the potential life, but there are circumstances where it is mandatory to do so. This Wednesday night, we're going to have an impromptu opportunity to learn some texts from the Jewish tradition that speak to these issues, reminding us of our perspective, which, by the way, is shared by many other religious groups. So it's interesting to me that the same court, so ardently defending religious rights in one setting, infringes in another, and which apparently is so pro-life in one respect, yet contributes in other ways to death and destruction. We'll have the opportunity to discuss it on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So what are we to do? In many ways, we feel like the children of Israel must have felt when they heard the devastating news that Israel, the promised land, was not just around the corner. We can feel that devastation, that disappointment, and we can channel it into action. There are a variety of ways of doing it, a variety of local and national organizations through which we can make sure that we are not silent like too many who heard the report of the spies. Because while this has been a setback, it doesn't have to be 40 years in the wilderness. And while it's a reminder that Dr. King's adage that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice sometimes has a kink in it that goes back the wrong way for a bit, we have the power in a still democratic nation to make sure our voices are heard where they need to be heard. So that, God willing, we don't have to wait for a generation to pass before making sure that justice, that law, and that loving kindness prevail. Let's take all those emotions we're feeling and channel them into action. Amen. And friends, the ultimate prayer of hopefulness in the future, the transcendence of possibility, is the Aleinu, page 586. Let's all rise and join together.
Shabbat